Happy Devil's Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 234, titled Tumultuous Timo. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with pucksandpitchforks.com editor-in-chief Nick Villano, coming live from the Primetime Radio Studios in North and South Jersey, streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter Live, and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network. Tonight we have from WFAN, Danielle McCartan on at 8:40 p.m. Eastern. Nick, great podcast tonight. I'm excited. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, Danielle's now a friend of the podcast, but I mean, the reason we're having her on tonight, besides, she's a great hockey fan. She's on WFAN, probably the biggest, sports talk, sports radio, station, right? Probably the biggest sports radio station in the country.
It is the biggest, actually.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't know if there was like some, because I know Chicago has like a ton of sports fans, and there's Philly might get a ton of listeners, but the WFAN has to be the biggest, just with its reach, the size of the media market, and just how long they've been doing it. Like, to be one of the first, lucky to have her on, and even luckier, Sam. I'm sure you've been promoting the event on October 24th. Yes. We're very excited. Sam, you're going to meet some of my family members coming in for this event. Yeah, we got some of my cousins are going to come in and hang out with us.
Do I have to dress up?
No. I mean, just I'm going to wear my Let's Go Devils podcast jersey.
Oh yeah.
So if you want to put that on, throw that sucker on, we'll match. But yeah, so basically, we're going to be speaking at Elementary. But we're going to be doing more than speaking. We're going to have games. There's going to be prizes. There's going to be giveaways. I guess those are prizes. There's going to be trivia. There's going to be... Sam, do you remember when I made you do the game show every week?
Yes. I missed that.
Well, it's coming back. I think I'm going to do it at every live event that we do.
Oh,
but I'm going to pull out like 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 of our favorites. I'm talking Price is Right. I'm talking Family Feud. I'm talking First to 100. Some of our favorite games. I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to try. I remember I did Weakest Link with Tyler Kennedy, and it didn't go well. But I think maybe in a live format it would go better. So I'm going to try. I'm going to play around with them. I'm going to bring 5 games. We're going to play as many as we can. We're going to do Q&A sessions. That's at Elementary, starting at 6:30 on Tuesday, and then we're going to watch the Montreal Canadiens take on the New Jersey Devils. I'm going to try to talk the owner of Elementary to let me get behind the bar and sling some drinks. They're all beers, so like, how hard can it be, right? Mm-hmm. Slinging some beers. I'm going to try to get him to talk me into it. I don't know what the New Jersey laws have to do with that, so he might tell me to kindly stand on the other side of the bar, but I'm still going to try to talk him into it, Sam.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to try to talk you into stopping your psychosis when it comes to the Timo Meier overreaction, Sam. We gotta tamper it back. We are 3 games into this season, Sam.
Hey, you know what? If
Sam,
our listeners,
we haven't. Our 1 week ago was our season preview show, and the sky is already falling. And it's not just you; it's a lot of fans talking a lot of stuff. Rickus on Twitter is a friend, or as much as like people can be friends on Twitter. And he inspired me to write my latest article talking about Timo Meier and how we should not bench him. That's a terrible idea. And it's funny that I just think we're in this space where we had all these expectations. And I expected the same. I expected the first sign of it not going well, the sky was going to fall. And all I just was hoping for is that the sky wouldn't fall for the team itself, because it is possible that the sky could fall for the team. And that's what you need to avoid. That's why you have Lindy Ruff as head coach, an experienced coach with, well over 1,000 games coached under his belt. This is why you have him in there, because you need him to stop the bleeding. And I think that let me just finish this real quick point. You had him do that practice, right? I think it was on Monday or Tuesday. It was on Tuesday, where he really drove them to the ground. That was his miracle on ice moment, where he with the Team USA doing the suicides, he really had that hard practice, and then he put Timo Meier on the first line with Jack Hughes. So clearly there's something there, but I'll let you get to your point.
Here's my point. The stuff that I do online, it's not trolling or whatever. It's just really being sarcastic and a little bit over the top about this whole
sounds
Timo
like trolling.
Meier. No. It's just basically, look, this morning I get this piece of audio. My good friend Matt singing about Timo Meier. I figured, well, I made a funny meme yesterday. I thought it was funny. Combine the two, put a video out there on my Twitter account at PrimetimeSamWoo. And, the reaction got nearly 5,000 views in the past 12 hours. But that wasn't the point. The point is settle down. Let's have a little fun with it. It's okay to poke at each other, about it. Look, Timo Meier, from what Bill Spaulding tweeted out and what we said on Devils After Dark, he's a slow starter. For whatever reason, he's a slow starter. Being paid that kind of money, slow start, all right, that's fine. But, again, I was just being a little sarcastic. That's all.
It's just too early for all this. This is the
3
team
games in? Come on.
It's too early. We were chanting. First of all, you're the man who told me I was crazy for saying we can't talk nice about Lindy Ruff after game 2 last year. You told me we that was our first real disagreement. You're like, I want to say that he's the right coach again. I'm like, no, you're just doubling down on a bad idea. We
no,
can't
I was
say
trying
that.
to quadruple down on a bad idea, which turned out to be a good idea. But luckily I stuck to my guns on it, and I took many victory laps once the Devils started winning. But
you did.
Yeah, I went back a month later. All those tweets, I see, told you. I did that for about an hour.
You need it. Man. This is what happens. When you have a kid, you hear people who waste time on dumb things, and you're just like, oh, man. What I would kill to have an hour to just kill on Twitter. This is my hour on Twitter. I'm doing the podcast. This is one of the jobs that I'm doing. So I think we're not in a bad place at all. Yeah. I really think that we're fine. Because here's real quick before we get to Danielle, I want to point out that there are positives. Jack Hughes is a superstar. He's even better than he was last year, and that was a big point of why you thought you were going to be better this year. The goalies look fine. It's just fine, but that's all you need. You need the defense to be a little bit better, right? That's the actual issue with this team. And the easiest move you make is just put Luke and John Marino together, two guys who haven't really lived up to their talent level so far in those first 3 games.
Yeah.
They need to be together. It just makes all the sense in the world. You'll get the best out of both of them. I liked Ball and Marino in the preseason. Ball earned his spot, but it's not working in the regular season. And this is where you kind of play around with things. So put Ball with Colin Miller. Get Smith out of the lineup. Just I get it. He's good at penalty killing. And I don't want to go 11-7. I saw that idea floated. Hate it. Hate. Because that fourth line's playing really well. And you're already breaking up that first line that was playing really well. I don't like the idea of going 11-7 just to get Brendan Smith on there for penalty killing when our penalty kill sucks. I get it. It's better with him on the ice. But if he's on the ice for a minute and then we give up a goal in the second minute, it doesn't really matter, right? Just give up the goal in the first minute. Then we have more time to score at 5-5, which we also haven't been doing. We only have 3 5v5 goals on the year. So there's a lot right? There's a lot going wrong here, but it's really not the end of the world because the things that you needed to go right are going right. So you just need the things to, progress to the mean. Nico's going to be better. Timo's going to be better. Tyler Toffoli's going to start scoring. Those things are going to happen.
Yeah, they're eventually going to happen. But, well, let's introduce our next guest, Danielle McCartan of WFAN. You can find her on Twitter at Coach McCartan. Danielle, you're on with Sam and Nick. Thank you for coming on. Can't wait to see you on Tuesday.
I know it's going to be fun. I've been counting down the days.
It's going to be exciting. And here's the thing. I was kind of promoting some of the things that you don't even know about. I've been kind of like holding these things tight because I have a lot of games that I was playing around with. We played a game every single week for a year. So I got like 45 different games because we only repeated like 5 or 6 of them. So, we got The Price is Right. We got Family Feud, obviously. Like that one's going to be easy to pull off, but we got First to 100. We got The Weakest Link. So I'm going to come there with an arsenal of game shows that we could play with our crowd. I also told Sam some of my family members are coming to hang out with us. So we're going to have a nice little crowd there on Elementary in, I always say the town wrong. So remind me which town so I don't say the wrong one.
Hackensack.
I keep saying Piscataway, and I feel like this is like my Jersey Shore brain thinking that every North Jersey town is the same. So Hackensack.
Yeah.
I get it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Over Elementary in Hackensack.
Those are all Devils themed Family Feud and everything?
Yep. They're all going to be Devils themed games. It honestly, I truly had to kind of give it up because I was spending literally hours putting these games together. And every single week, and I'd just be like, and then I'd have to get like a guest to play the game with Sam. So one of the Pucks and Pitchforks writers would come on and play against Sam. So, this is a much more confined system where just put 5 of them together and then, you play it with the people at the live event. So we're really excited. What are you most excited about for the live event?
Well, now maybe that sounds awesome. I'm very competitive. I love game shows, but before that, I would just say just meeting it. I always just love meeting the people, meeting the fans. I do these events a lot because of that. When people show up for like a watch party, those are like the true fans, and those are the fans that I love to connect with. So I would say that, and just, I don't know, kind of putting on a production with not just me, like with everybody else, and to share in the community of, Devils fanatics, I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every time, like I did this from Florida for a very long time. So that was one of the most excited things I was about moving back to New Jersey, is that coming out, we did a couple of live events in Florida and they were a lot of fun meeting the fans, but you're only going to get so many Devils fans in Florida. Going out and doing these watch parties and doing these live podcasts for the fans in New Jersey, there's just nothing like it. And I don't know if you noticed this, and I'm kind of going off on a tangent. I'm not even going to the rundown yet. We'll get to that in a sec, and we'll talk Devils hockey. But have you noticed that there's a push for Devils fandom kind of getting into that positive culture? Like I saw a video, I think Brat Peck shared it, where Devils fans were doing a mosh pit with like a band playing outside, and everybody's like, oh, look at them having like the most fun. Jake Sanderson of the Ottawa Senators, freshly minted $8 million contract, called the Devils one of the best fans as far as like chirping and saying funny things. And he's like, I didn't know New Jersey was like that. He did say maybe it's the New Yorkers. Didn't love that. No, this is pure Jersey, baby, coming with the chirps. But I'm seeing the New Jersey Devils fans and just their ambiance, this fan base getting a higher ranking within the New York sports base.
I mean, I think it goes hand in hand. I mean, the product on the ice is good, and when I was there in the lean years, and I know you were, and everybody else listening here and probably showing up on Tuesday were there in the lean years when it was like, you had no problems getting a ticket to a game for cheap to sit right behind the goal, So now that they're good, of course, and it happens across all sports, all teams. I mean, I've got on TV the New York Liberty, probably a sold out Barclays Center in the finals here, but when the product is good, people will show up. I mean, Jersey people are passionate. That's what we're known for, right? We're passionate people. We love we love hard, we fight hard, and
Mhm.
finally the product is good on the ice. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I have, I'm a teacher during the week, and we have we had hockey day at opening day for hockey. Everybody wore like their jerseys of their teams. I didn't see one Rangers jersey on a single student.
Wow. We love
Yeah,
that. We love that for us.
yeah, and there was a couple faculty members with the Devils, and one guy wore an Islanders jersey. But yeah, I mean, I see it, and it's starting with the kids, which is always great for
Mhm.
to grow the fandom of the team.
Now, I want to talk about Timo Meier, but I will get to that in a sec because I kind of want to transition from the kids and to Jack Hughes because I think that's what's going to get them. I I went to West Virginia University, and I swear this is going somewhere. And the kids talk about the Tavon Austin mixtape and watching Tavon Austin on YouTube, and it made them West Virginia fans, and it made West Virginia people want to go to West Virginia and just go part of that culture. I feel like
Mhm.
hockey that can be equated, like seeing Jack Hughes slippery slope through a defense and score on a team by himself. Like those are the kinds of things that's going to bring in the kids. It's going to bring in the casuals. It's going to get more Devils fans. What
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? He's done it already. He scored 2 goals in the first game. I think he had 3 points in the second game. Hughes I think he has 6 points so far. I don't have it in front of me, but he has 6 points in
Yeah.
3 games. What's that going to do? Like his stardom rising, like what does that do for the team as a whole? What does that do for him as a player? Like how does that help everybody?
Well, and it helps that he's a cute kid, right? So I have all these girls at school. They all love him. They all love Jack Hughes. So that always helps. But yeah, I mean, the kid's he's a superstar. He is an actual superstar, and I mean, in New Jersey, right? It always seems that the superstars always head to Broadway and the Rangers and things like that. But this guy is the real deal. So I mean, he's even better than he was last year. Or I know it's a really small sample size, but he's even better than he was last year, which is amazing, because he was great last year. So
Yep.
having the superstardom in here, it only I almost want to equate it to like the NBA, where if you have a superstar, it brings others in, right? Especially if they're all homegrown kind of guys. They're going to be together for a long time, and that means sustained winning for the New Jersey Devils. And I mean, it's not one of those like the Jets where it's a bring in Aaron Rodgers and try to win now. It's like it's going to be sustained winning for a long time with the Devils, centered around because of Jack Hughes.
Now let's talk about bringing in the star, right? The Devils have the homegrown stars. They have not only they have Hughes, they have Jesper Bratt, who's been on fire this season. Nico Hischier was a Selke candidate last year, and they have a couple other guys like they have McLeod on the first line. They have Alex Holtz, Dawson Mercer. They have like a bunch of homegrown guys. That's what happens when you're bad for a decade, right? You start to get those homegrown stars because you're picking so high in the draft. But they wanted one more star last year. And they got the big fish at the trade deadline, which was Timo Meier, right? They sent a bevy of pieces. I think it was the biggest trade in NHL history as far as the amount of players and picks that went both ways, right? So, and a lot of those better, younger pieces went to the San Jose Sharks. Now, Meier had a decent, I think it was 20 games. He had 9 goals to end the regular season. He struggled offensively in the playoffs, but he brought a lot to the team as far as physicality, getting under the skin, kind of those playoff type plays. And, he wasn't getting scored on. This year, he's just had a rough go. He had 2 penalties on Monday, and one of them, I know at least one of them led to a goal directly, and he got benched in the third period. But, his coach, Lindy Ruff, called him out, and they had that hard practice, and they really, there was a lot of, there's a magnifying glass on them now. So what are your thoughts on a superstar like Meier coming in here, trying to get, he only spent a little time with the team last year, so he's trying to get accustomed. What's that like? Like, where do you think that is? And is it too early to panic?
Yes, I think it's too early to panic to answer that question first, but I kind of think of this from a coach's perspective and as a player, because as a coach, you've got this superstar guy, right? And to do something like that, to make a move like that, means that you believe that this guy is totally bought into your philosophy. So let's just say Timo Meier has bought in, which it seems on the outside that he has. That sends a message to the rest of the team. And the message in doing that says, like, I don't care how much money you make. If you are not playing up to our standard, you're going to sit until you figure it out. And I like that. I do. I like the old school approach to that. However, I mean, it could backfire, right? Because if you've got a superstar, you sit him in game, what is it, 3, in the final 20 minutes of game 3, and he's sitting there going like, what the hell, man? Like, really? That could have a detrimental effect, right? But as a player, and this guy's been in the league a long time. This is 9th or 10th season this season. You have to understand, like, this is the culture of the team. Like, you're an older player on a really young team. And for the coach to make a point and prove a point and to propel this team forward, maybe he has to do that. And I think of back, I was a captain on my high school softball team. I was the captain. And I, for whatever reason, uncharacteristic of me, I didn't run out a ground ball to first base. I didn't do it. And I got back to the dugout, and my coach said to me, go take a lap. And I was like, okay. And he's like, no, go take a lap. And I was like, what? But, I did the whole lap around the whole field. I came back, and he's like, you know why I had to do that, right? And I was like, as I was thinking, I was going around, I was thinking, like, why the hell did he pick me? But it was to send a message to the rest of the team. And it was a young team. And just to say, like, hey, no one gets away with anything here. So I like it. I mean, as a player, then I was a mature person and I understood why he did it. I didn't go around complaining about it, but everybody watching me run around that field is kind of the same thing as watching Timo Meier on the bench. So ultimately, I think it was a good thing. I think it's going to ignite this team, especially because they had a conversation the very next morning. If that went on without a conversation, that would have been a big problem. But it seems to me they're all on the same page. So I'm curious to see what happens in the next game.
Yeah, and they have some time here, right? They lost on Monday, first regulation loss, by the way. Like, it's really this guy. They have 3 points in 3 games. It is what it is. They're only 1 point behind, like, the Rangers and the Hurricanes for first place. It's bonkers that we're talking about it like this, but it is what it is. They haven't looked good in the beginning of games, and I think with all the hype. Let me ask you this: I want to ask about the hype and what that does, because New York sports comes with hype. So you've covered hype so much that you understand. Like, look at the Yankees this year. Look at the Mets for the past 5 years. Look at, the Giants coming into the season. Look at the Jets coming into the season.
Yeah.
All of that, all 4 of those teams crumbled, right? And the Jets is a completely different story because Aaron Rodgers got hurt. But still, like, all 4 of those teams are not where we thought they were going to be. As far as the Yankees and the Mets are concerned, they didn't make the playoffs at all. The Giants aren't going to make the playoffs. And the Jets, have this pie in the sky with Zach Wilson. So seeing that hype not equate to success, do you think the hype had anything to do with it? Like, is there just too much pressure in this market? Is there too much pressure on these teams? Like, too many eyeballs? Like, does that have anything to do with it? And I know New Jersey's different than New York, but still, it's still the same media coverage.
Mm-hmm. Well, we don't know if the Jets or Giants are going to make the playoffs just yet, but I think. And I talked about it at the time, like, the Mets crumbled. The Mets absolutely crumbled under the weight of expectations. I mean, they had Jeff McNeil, who was the reigning NL batting champ. They had Buck Showalter, who was the reigning manager of the year. And I think so much at 101 wins or whatever it was. I think there was so much expected of the Mets that I think that they actually crumbled under the pressure. I do think so this year. I also, when you were talking, I was thinking about the Brooklyn Nets and that super team, right? And I got the super team, the real super team in Brooklyn on TV right now. But, I mean, they actually crumbled under the pressure, I think. So, and there were a lot of variables there as well. So, inherently, I think, we're a major market. It's like LA, New York. We are the 2 major markets in this country. So, inherently, that when you come here as a player, some guys can handle it and some guys can't. We've seen it throughout all of the sports, all of the different professional sports. So the hype train, when I've talked to athletes that say, like, when you win in New York, you are a superhero, so I think it works both ways. But as far as the Devils this year, they had like a quote unquote Cinderella season last year. They got far, and all that. But now they're among the hunted. Like, when you are the hunted, and we talked about this on my volleyball team. Like, we won a state championship. That next season, every team was bringing their A game against us to say, like, hey, we beat them. And that's kind of what the Devils are going through right now. Like, every team is bringing their A game to beat the Devils. And it's going to be a tough season this year. But, as Tom Coughlin told me Friday night, tough times don't last, tough people do. And I think the Devils have a really tough group of people led by a really tough head coach. They're going to be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And the older Devils fans like myself and Sam and some of the other ones who remember those 90s and 2000s teams know that there was an upper echelon of team, and teams did bring their A game, right? And I think I want to say it was Bryce Salvador said on that broadcast, like in the beginning of the season last year, the Devils were still getting backup goalies, right? People were letting the Jonathan Quicks in New York, or the Semyon Varlamovs and the whoever, they were letting the backup goalie take that game because it's like, well, it's the Devils. Like if we lose, like that would stink, but I do think we have a chance to win with our backup goalie, and that's not going to happen this year, right? You're going to get not only the A game from the players, but you're going to get the A lineup, right? If you're on the back to back, like the A lineup's playing against the Devils. If you're playing against the division rivals, like you're going to get Shesterkin, you're going to get Sorokin, you're going to get Jari in Pittsburgh. Like this is what's going to happen, and that's just what the Devils have to face. And there's been some interesting situations, right? The Devils played on a Thursday night, and then their second game was Friday night, which is just a scheduling. I call it the issue with having AI do the schedule, right? Is that you don't think like that's probably a really terrible idea, and then. They play Monday against a Panthers team that was desperate because they were 0-2 and they could not fall at 0-3. And then they get 4 days off. So it's the schedule's a little quirky in October. We're going to get to more regular in November, December, January. So I'm just not overreacting to anything, but I do have a few examples right across the river of what can happen. The Yankees just blew it in April, right? They were terrible in April and they could never recover. So, you do have an example of how a worst case scenario.
Yeah, I mean, I love the point that you were saying about what Bryce Salvador said. Yeah, it makes total sense. And they're going to bring their A game and their A lineup, more importantly, and their A goalies and their A game plan and all of that. So, I mean, just persevere through it. I mean, I think the Devils are talented enough. It's not like they're going to wilt under the pressure. I mean, they are talented enough. And like I said, you mentioned it before, they have a good core group of guys. Timo Meier will come around. And these guys are going to go. I mean, last year they rattled off how many wins in a row early on in the season. It was a little shaky start. And then it was like 10 in a row or something like that. So I'm not concerned. I'm just not. I'm not concerned just yet. And it's, people call me up on the fan. Is it time to hit the panic button on the Devils? What are you talking about? Panic button on the Devils? That's a joke, right? So no,
and they won a game. Like it's not like they're 0-3. They're 1-1-1.
They're going to be fine.
It's fine.
But I think on Tuesday we could talk about Timo Meier, how he's got like zero goals, 0 points. But still, it's just the beginning. It's okay.
So let's talk about Tuesday. I'm very excited. Why don't we? You should hit the panic button if you're not in Hackensack on Tuesday, the 24th. Montreal Canadiens. It's a 7:30 puck drop, but the fun starts at 6:30. Me and Sam are going to be there. We're bringing Marcy Rubin for Pucks and Pitchforks. She's going to join us there. I know the Stiletto and Stouts guy is going to be there. He actually owns the brewery, but he's who I'm going to try to convince to let me sling some drinks from behind the bar. I'm going to see if he lets me like sneak back there and kind of serve some people. But we're going to watch the game. We're going to play games. We're going to do trivia, hang out with me and Danielle and Sam and Marcy and the whole crew. But Marcy, like plug your side of this. Plug what's happening, and then plug your show so people watch you on the weekend and listen to you on the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I've been extremely busy the past couple of days, so I apologize. But we did start a Google Doc. We're gonna have a nice little conversation before it. A nice not surface level conversation about the Devils. And I think that's where a lot of people are kind of turned off. We're going to go in. We're going to talk about this team, dissect this team. And what I love about the date that we picked is that nobody has an excuse because it is an away game. It is the Devils' first away game. So it's not like you're going to be there at the Rock watching the game. So why don't you just watch it among friends, among all of us? And before that, though, I'll advertise it again on WFAN. I'm going to be on Saturday night from 8 p.m. to 12 a.m. So tune in. How about we talk some hockey? Everybody always complains on Twitter, oh, you don't talk any hockey. And we talked about this. You don't talk any hockey, Danielle. Okay, but I want to call me up and we'll talk about hockey for sure. Actually, I'm going to talk about the benching of Timo Meier this weekend. So hey, stay tuned for that.
And that's huge. And you're going to have another game, under your belt to talk about that on Friday. So that's going to be huge.
Yeah.
It's against the Islanders, which is a pretty. They've had struggles against their style of play. So there's going to be a lot to talk about. And we're really excited. So we'll definitely plug that. Tune into Danielle McCartan. You know the number. It's WFAN 660 on the fan. It's very obvious. But Danielle, we're excited for that.
It's also 101.9 FM, Nick.
That's right.
Or download the podcast, right?
Or the Odyssey app. Yes, I have it.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah. Look at you guys.
I don't. But yeah, Danielle, thank you so much. We're excited for Tuesday. Everybody will tune in. Also, if you're from out of state, we'll still have some live podcasts from elementary. But Danielle, thank you so much for coming on. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, see you Tuesday. Should I wear Brodeur or Danico on Tuesday? What do you guys think?
Ooh.
I feel like you got to wear, let's go Danico. Let's go with the guy who works for the broadcast team instead of the guy who works for the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also too, I just remembered we're doing a charitable donation to. We're not charging any admission to get in. We're doing a charitable donation to a charity that Ken Danico is an honorary board member of. So I guess I have to go with Dano for Tuesday.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go with Dano. All right. Let's go with Dano.
All right. All right. Well, I'll see you guys on Tuesday.
Danielle, we'll see you then.
All right. Bye, guys. Can't wait.
Bye. Thank you. Bye. That's Danielle McCartan of WFAN. You can find her on Twitter at Coach McCartan. That's why I have the Odyssey app. I listen to Danielle all the time, talking about baseball, talking about football, talking hockey every once in a while. She does it all.
Sam, you ever and that was a great interview. Danielle is, she's one of the smart heads in New York sports, and she's a teacher by day and a radio host by night. And you and me, Sam, can really we appreciate that because we are both people who, this is not our job. This is our second job. We're building our brand. We're building our, our voice and our I do the blog as well, obviously. And
I'm a troll by day and a podcaster by night. That's what I tell people.
Yeah, your job is Twitter, apparently.
Yeah,
oh God, that would be the worst job in the world.
I know.
I lost my train of thought, but no, I mean Danielle, she's very impressive how she's so and honestly I will say this, Sam, I do struggle just keeping up with the other sports because as many of you know, I do write for the Front Page Fansided, and when I get an article, I have to research it when I'm writing it, right? I don't have that base of knowledge because I have a child and I have a day job that's very demanding, and I have the blog. So I need to know the devil's up and down. So I make sure that happens, make sure I'm ready for the podcast, and make sure, one time I did make a mistake once way back in the day when I had just a regular hockey podcast at West Virginia University. And I heard it from a lot of people. So since then I'm for the podcast, you got to have your research down because I can't edit this, right? Once I say something wrong, it's wrong. So her to do that on such a platform like WFAN while holding down a teaching job, which is such a demanding job, you take that home, you do go home and your job's not done. You have to put lessons plans together. You have to make sure the kids are where they need to be. You have to assess a lot of things. So, big shouts out to Danielle. If you're not listening on the weekend, there's two big friends of the podcast from WFAN. There's Danielle, who's been on, and then there's Keith McPherson, who we interact with a lot. We love him, and he's another guy that's like an 8 to midnight guy, but he's during the week. So it's hard for us to get him on this podcast, right? Because we're on at the same time. But we love Keith. Shoot over to listen to Keith right after this podcast because he'll talk hockey with you. He was at opening night. Yeah, he was at opening night. So he's the lucky charm. We got to make sure that he's in the arena as much as possible. And talk hockey with him. He will talk Devils hockey with you. He loves the Devils. Or just talk, those terrible Giants teams. Sorry, Sam, they're bad. But my team's bad too. We're both really bad. So I could say it, right? I could say that your team's bad if my team's bad. Is that how it works?
Yeah, I mean the Giants are just bad, just bad.
They're
I
bad.
mean,
They're
it didn't
bad.
matter if the refs saw the penalty or not. They're just bad.
They're bad.
I mean, they're so
Yeah,
bad.
it was a good effort against yeah, it's anyway. So let's talk Devils before we go. So I was kind of getting into this before we had Danielle on about the goalies and how I saw somebody say that it was the goalie's fault that we are where we are, and that's just preposterous. Vitek Vanacek was great against the Red Wings. He was fine last game. Schmid I thought was quite good against the Coyotes. He was bad in the shootout, but like that's a parlor game. That is a like why are we having a carnival game decide hockey games? I'm ready for ties again, Sam. Let's just do it. I was so against it for so long. It's a parlor game. This is literally
I'll tell you what, I liked ties back in the day. You know what, they were kind of a buzzkill at times, but now the skills competition is so ridiculous right now. I would like to see more 3-on-3 overtime extended to 10 minutes before you give that tie.
Yeah, I mean, here's what you could do. Now follow me here, Sam. You have 10-minute 3-on-3 overtime, and we change the point system. 3 points for a win. You get 1 point for making it to overtime. You get a second point for winning in overtime. You get no extra point for a tie. So making it to overtime, you already get that point.
It'll never happen. It'll never
Why?
happen. Because they tried to do that 20 years ago, and the sentiment back then was, how do you compare eras when the point system is completely different?
I mean, I feel like more people are looking at win percentage now and points percentage, which would carry over. And I think you can do it, right? I think, it's the same argument that how long ago was it a 70-game season? It wasn't that long ago. It was like 70s? Early 80s? Was it? Well, I guess early 80s is when they went to 82, right? Or they went to 80, right?
I think they went to 84, I think, in the 80s. I don't remember.
Okay. I remember they went from 70 to 80, and at some point they settled on 82. I've heard a lot of people say that 70 is the right number for basketball and hockey, and on the surface you're probably right, but no team owner is going to say goodbye to 6 games of revenue, right? That's like saying goodbye to like millions of dollars, like literally. So I think that's a moot point. It's something just not worth talking about. Let me. You know what, Sam? Let's get into. Do you want to get into what people are talking about?
What are they talking about?
This is going to come off. So, friend of the podcast, Rachel Dory, put out just a flamethrower on Twitter, and we're going to talk about it because she's getting heat, and Rachel's a friend. She's a friend of the podcast, so I'm not going to jump on the heat, but I'm curious because you tend to have your own hot takes. Her take is that we should abolish the draft, get rid of it entirely, and let players pick their destination. I guess there would be I assume in her, it was a tweet, so you only get so much, but I assume it's like a signing period where all the young players could pick, who owns the rights, and they sign there. They're all ELCs, and then that's who owns the rights. And then, that's how they do it. Her point was that's how they do it in European soccer. It seems to work fine. A lot of the discourse was about, smaller markets might as well not exist. And there's a lot there. But I don't agree. I don't think they should abolish the draft. And I don't think that the NHL ever would because of how much money the draft generates. the owners would just never sign on to it. Like James Dolan would sign on to it. The Blackhawks owner probably would, but that's pretty much it. Maybe Edmonton and Toronto. But what's your thoughts of just getting rid of the draft? She's, her point was also it's a workers issue, right? You have no choice of where you end up. You just kind of end up somewhere. They could draft you if you don't want them to. If you refuse to go there, they could still draft you. There's a lot there. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think the competitive balance of the league would be in shambles. I mean,
yeah, the parity would be pretty shot.
Yeah, I think it possibly could ruin the game. Now, what Rachel's saying, like, I actually find her creativity in it and outside the box thinking. It's got me thinking. It's not a bad suggestion actually, but the reason for the draft, and again, because teams like, I mean, you could have. I'm trying to think of a scenario, but you want to talk about dynasties. If you're an NHL team that's like winning Stanley Cups every year, and every it's almost like college football in a way. There are some powerhouses that are just
it is a lot like college football, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Like all the recruiting. I mean, it'd be totally different, style of, but then again, okay, from the recruitment process, I guess the players have the choice to which school they go to. But in the NHL, I mean, I guess it could work, but you're going to have the rich teams and you're going to have the poor teams. I don't think it would. I just don't think it would work long term.
So you don't think there'd ever be like a situation like Wichita State making a run to the Final Four, or like you don't think like that's possible? Like they just find lightning in a bottle, develop the hell out of players. Like think about Jesper Bratt. Like Devils had their eyes on him. They sign him, he becomes a superstar. The issue is I don't think Nico Hischier or Jack Hughes are signing here, right? I just don't think they are. I think Jack Hughes would sign either in Florida, Toronto, or like one of the
None
places
of them would
he's called
sign
home.
with New Jersey. I mean, even
I wouldn't say none. Because New Jersey has a lot.
I'm talking about first overall picks.
I agree. I understand your concept. I wouldn't say none just because New Jersey has a lot going for it in that. Like, if it happened now, I think people would sign with the Devils just because of the team they have, the hype they have, the publicity they have. If we're talking 4 years ago, I don't think anybody's signing here, and I think you struggle forever. But you also have to remember, like, then a coach's job becomes different. Like, Nick Saban's job is completely different than, Brian Daboll's, right? Because he has to recruit. His main job is really recruiting. And you have to get these guys, Lindy Ruff becomes a recruiter, right? Tom Fitzgerald's a very good recruiter. And these GMs probably get more power. And, I've seen Tom Fitzgerald talk people into some things. Like, how do you talk Timo Meier and Jesper Bratt and Jack Hughes and a lot of these players to take pay cuts? Sam, the thing we don't talk about, that the craziest thing that Tom Fitzgerald did is he told Michael McLeod and Nathan Bastian to go kick rocks. If you're taking this to arbitration, then I'm not even giving you a qualifying offer. Go to free agency. Figure out what you're worth. And both of them literally turned right around and said, no, I'm good. I'm just going to sign here. I'm not even going to talk to another team. I'm going to sign here immediately. Right? He gave them the keys to do what so many players want. And they were like, no. Okay, I'm sorry. I want to come back. I want to be a part of this. So, that's where I struggle with how much would that matter. But that's where the game becomes, right? You now need the best recruiters in the smallest markets. And then those recruiters are going to get big money to go to Toronto, big money to go to the Rangers.
How does Major League Baseball do it? I don't understand it. Like, they sign kids from the Dominican Republic at like 15 or 16. Like, how does that work? And then there is a draft. I have no idea.
So there's a draft for, I think, the North American players. I think that's what it is. I think it's like Canada, the U.S., Mexico. I think it's those three. The draft is like 100 rounds, though. It's really ridiculous. And then they have an international bonus money pool. So that's where they sign the Dominican guys and the Venezuelan and Costa Rican and things like that. And then obviously there's the Korean and the Japanese baseball players. Now they become traditional free agents and can sign for like that. That's why they get that massive money. I don't think that has to do with the international bonus pool. I think the bonus pool is for like young players, like those 16, 17-year-olds. And then a guy like, why is Daisuke Matsuzaka stuck in my head? Like Hideki Matsui and Shohei Ohtani, like those guys, they're traditional free agents as far as I remember. It is confusing, but they also do have a draft. So that's,
Well,
and if you want to and I feel like if they were ever to do this, Sam, that would be the test, right? They would make the draft the North American players to test this out, and then they would make a pool of money where you could sign the European and Russian and Belarus and like those kinds of players.
It's a neat idea. I'll say that.
It needs a weird. I think it's an idea layered in you almost say I get it, but the amount of changes that the league would have to make to abolish the draft, there would probably be changes in revenue sharing. There would probably be changes in how free agency works. There would be probably changes. And then, if you're going to do that for workers' rights, right? This is my point, is that if you're going to do that for workers' rights, how are you going to ever look a player in the face when he gets traded? You've established a life here, and I've ripped you and your family away from it. No matter, think about the story of Curtis Lazar. His wife had complicated pregnancy, and they took him out of Vancouver and sent him not only to across the continent, but during a global pandemic with very different rules in the U.S. and Canada. So, in a pregnant wife, with a very scary disease out there. So, or virus, whatever it's called. So, I think then that's going to be part of the next CBA. I don't think it's never going to pass the CBA. The owners are never going to get on for it. It's an idea that provides interesting discussion, but it's almost like we're here now. The draft is here. It's not going anywhere. Because I guess where this discussion started, Sam, did you see what is actually being discussed about the draft?
No, didn't see anything.
They want to play it like the NFL draft, where the players are backstage in a green room and the teams are not there, right? So the teams are back home. They'll call in from the Prudential Center if it's the Devils. They'll call in their pick, and then that pick walks up, and Gary Bettman gets the hand on the jersey. That is a terrible idea. I think it's a terrible idea, and I think it's a self-serving idea for Bettman. Because I think he sees Goodell gets these pictures with these players while the team gets the pictures with the Solomon Nemitz and the Jack Hughes and the Nico Hischier and whoever the heck for the other teams. It just sounds like a self-serving whatever prophecy or idea. I think that is a terrible idea. The draft is fine. The NHL doesn't have much that's just fine. That's kind of working. The draft is the right amount of rounds. They took off the 8th and the 9th round, and now you have a 7-round draft, which seems right. Seems like you kind of hit it on the head there. You have all the teams there in one place. You get the moments Sam. If we did that, we'd lose the moment of Tom Fitzgerald giving his last pick to David Poile to make his last pick in Nashville before he retired. Things like that. These cool moments. It's just. We have these ideas in the NHL, and it's we're looking at the things that are already working when we really should be looking at the things that aren't working. And there's too many to list. That's just not working. Overtime, the point system, the standings points. I do think that going back to my point from a while ago, I think that if you make ties the same amount of points as overtime losses, I think that fixes it. I do. I think players would play really hard because, you kind of, you have nothing to play. You have no reason to stop. I think people would take chances, and that would lead to big plays on both sides. I think there's going to be highlight reels. You're going to be on ESPN more often. You're going to be on Sportsnet more often. I just think it makes all the sense in the world you can bring back ties. You can make overtime 3-on-3 10 minutes, so you get more plays, more big plays, more superstar plays, because that's all that's really on the ice. I'm going all over the place with this, Sam, but I really think that this is the way.
Oh, I agree with you on the 3-point thing. It's just I just don't think it's going to ever happen, or until at least Gary Bettman's out.
Yeah, which, I mean, is that guy Dracula, or like what? He hasn't aged since the 90s.
No, he's starting to get up there.
He is physically up there in age, but he doesn't look like it.
No, you got to go way back. His hair is a lot darker.
Yeah. But Just for Men does wonders.
Yeah, that's true.
The Grays are starting
Bill
to come
Daly
in.
still looks the same.
Sam, the Grays are starting to come since the baby. I'm 35 years old, and the Grays are coming. They're coming with a vengeance.
I'm starting to get grays as well.
I pluck them out. I pluck them out of my beard because they like stick out of my beard, and I got to do this podcast. I can't be looking old, but I get them. As you can see, like I try to go pretty high with the fade.
I think you need to follow my my method. Who cares what other people think?
Oh, I don't care what other people think. I care what I think.
Yeah, but I don't care if I have grays all over the place. I'll be like, yeah, I'm old.
Nah, I don't want them.
All right.
None of that. All right, but I'm ready for plugs if you are.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Right now, on pucksandpitchforks.com, I already plugged the Timo Meier article. That one's up there. I'm going to write something else tonight. John just texted me while we were on this podcast. His Alexander Holtz article is done. He has a very positive take on Alexander Holtz, so that's going to be up tomorrow, probably tonight. Probably late tonight, so just pretend it's tomorrow morning. Dan Rice wrote a piece on Jonas Siegenthaler, speaking directly with him, how he's become a very good defensive juggernaut for this team. Jersey Joe wrote about, he kind of reacted to the line changes after that really hard practice on Tuesday, so he's got some rampant ideas there. And, we're back and better than ever, folks. Every single day, you will get at least one post. Every single day. I promised you that. I'm going to keep my promise. It's the season has started, and we're back and better than ever.
Yeah.
Oh, and October 24th. Like, come on. Come to Elementary in Hackensack. Not Piscataway. Hackensack. Keep saying the wrong town. Hackensack. Elementary, 6:30 p.m. Me and Sam. Come have a beer with me and Sam.
Yeah, I'll be there. Actually, I'm going to be there tomorrow to do a little tech check, make sure everything is just right for that major event in Hackensack. Something to plug. First off, I want to thank all the fans, our podcast fans, because 750,000 downloads was this past Sunday of the Let's Go Devils podcast, which is a major milestone. It wasn't too long ago where we had the 500,000 party, but thank you to everybody that listens in. We meet you guys at American Whiskey, everybody, American Whiskey. We have a woman that drives a UPS truck, listens to us at night, and you start to, Nick, you start to realize that you have an impact. That we got to keep the show keep going because they're relying on, they want their Devils hockey. So I want to thank all you fans. Yes, we'll be there October 24th. Also, this was just decided by the powers to be that on November 10th, Friday, November 10th, at American Whiskey, our big launch party for And Crew Brew. The order has been made. The batches have been made. The canning process, I've seen videos of it. Once I get those videos to me, I'll probably put it online, put it on social media. And Crew Brew launch party at American Whiskey before the Devils take on the Washington Capitals. It is going to be a big event. We'll have some more information later on that. It's going to be a big day for the Let's Go Devils podcast. Stay at fan address, pucksandpitchforks.com. We will have more information about that at American Whiskey, which is the official home game bar of the Let's Go Devils podcast. So that's all I need to plug.
There we go.
Yeah.
It was a cool 57 minutes today, Sam. We
Oh,
kept it under an hour. Let's keep it that way. Say goodbye.
Yeah. All right. Dropping the podcast at midnight. Got to get out of here. I'll be back tomorrow for another Woo Report. I'll see you later, Nick. See you later, everybody. Till next time, let's go Devils.